What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome back to the Madden 20 Ratings Prediction Series, where today, because we're going in the draft order, we're at pick number 5, which is held by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as we try to take a look at what their ratings could very well be in Madden 20. And I will say, I'm getting a lot of questions. These rosters will be available to download very, very soon, hopefully across all platforms, be it PC, which is where they're currently at, and on console soon. Just, stay posted. Best way to do it and stay up to date is by joining my Discord. So taking a look here at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let's look at the roster. So we're going to start here with Jameis Winston, who I'm giving a 78 overall. I think it's make or break year if Bruce Arians can't reach the potential that Jameis Winston supposedly still has. I don't think they're going to get a brand new contract. He's going to go to free agency and then be like a flyer type QB. I mean, we look at what he did last season: 3-6 as a starter, 3,000 passing yards, 19 touchdowns to 14 picks. It's just the turnovers. He's so careless with the football. It was his issue at Florida State, and he has not developed in that facet at all. I mean, the arm talent is there. He's a leader. He has a lot of leadership traits. Sometimes it gets him in trouble, but you could see that fiery type guy, that Baker Mayfield type tangible quality. He has that. It's just he does not protect the football, and it's costing his team time and time again. Like, there's a reason why Fitzmagic was all the rage in Tampa Bay, and I felt like maybe they pulled the plug on that way too early. It's just because it's Jameis Winston. You don't want to give up on him. It was kind of a tough spot for Dirk Cutter to be put in last season. So I think Jameis Winston's going to get a 78. He's not really particularly great in the Madden sim, so I think if you use the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in your rebuilds or as your franchise mode in Madden 20, you're probably going to want to move on from Jameis Winston. But the Madden devs seem to like him, so I wouldn't be shocked if he still has a 78 quick dev. Moving to the running back room. Ugh. I was kind of surprised I didn't see the Bucs, take a PR hit and try to look at bringing in Kareem Hunt this offseason. But what they got Peyton Barber. We gave him a 77 last season. He had, I think, like 800 total yards, 5-6 touchdowns. He's just an average running back. In reality, probably should be like a nice part of a committee, but nowhere near the lead back. They got Jaquiz Rodgers, Kerwin Williams, Ronald Jones, who was a bust so far. I don't know if Bruce Arians is going to be able to maximize his potential. I thought he was pretty damn good at USC. Very, very fast, very, very explosive, very fun in Madden, but in real life, I don't know if he's going to turn it around. They also got Andre Ellington, but he retired. He's not actually in the game, but he's on the depth chart because obviously he's one of Bruce Arians' boys. They got Bruce Anderson, my boy from North Dakota State. I like that pickup. Wouldn't be surprised or shocked to see him make the roster, but he's probably going to end up on the practice squad. Wide receiver, I give Mike Evans a 93. This might be a slight bias because he is one of my favorite wide receivers in the league, but he's a beast, man. He's so underrated, I think, for the stats that he picks up. You just don't think he puts up the stats. And yes, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a little bit of an air raid, maybe as close to an air raid last year as there is in the NFL, but I mean, 86 catches, 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he does this consistently. He had like one down year in his whole career. So the fact that, he had some drop issues as a rookie, those are pretty much gone. I think he's definitely top 10 wide receiver in the league, if not better. So I'm giving him a 93, which I think for my ratings on the top of my head, he's like number 6 or 7. Maybe, fringe top 5 wide receiver. And I totally think that is what Mike Evans brings. I mean, he's incredibly tough wide receiver to cover. He's a good athlete, unbelievable jump ball, can make some ridiculous catches, really good route runner. In his hands, his drop issues are way, way less prevalent than they were his first year or two in the league. So I think he's definitely an elite wide receiver. And we're talking about X Factor traits and stuff like that for Madden 20. Chalk up Mike Evans to get one of those. Chris Godwin, we're going to give Chris Godwin an 80 last season, 59 catches, 840 yards, 7 touchdowns. I think he could potentially break out now with no more Deshaun Jackson there eating into some of his reps. So I did like that pick. So I think 80 quick is probably what you get for Chris Godwin. They brought over Rashad Perriman, who was a bust in Baltimore, but then actually had some, 4 or 5, it felt like explosive plays for the Browns. He was like a midseason pickup. So I actually kind of like that as a cheap option to replace Deshaun Jackson. A low-key guy to keep up an eye out for is Scott Miller. Ran like a 4.3, like a mid 4.3 at his pro day. Had really good production at Bowling Green. Not a whole lot of people paid attention to him during the scouting process. That was a nice pick for the Bucs. Justin Watson had actually a kind of insane combine too, or pro day 2 years ago when he got drafted, 67. So, it's a healthy wide receiver room. And from a Madden standpoint, lots of good athletes, lots of speed. Going to tight ends, we got O.J. Howard. I gave him an 83 overall. Was really, really good for Pro Football Focus. Great run blocker. And when you look at the actual stats before he got hurt, 34 catches, 560 yards, 5 touchdowns. I think he's, there's a chance he get 83 star. We're talking about dev traits. He's definitely 83 quick and one of the better young tight ends in the league. Cam Brate, just a touchdown machine. We're going to him a 79 overall. Last season, 30 catches, 290 yards, but 6 touchdowns. He has tremendous chemistry with Jameis Winston, and definitely is going to be a big part of that resurrection if Bruce Arians can tap into that potential with Jameis. Going to the offensive line, not a great O-line at all. I'm very shocked that they didn't address the offensive line in free agency or in the draft. They got Donovan Smith, who's bang on below average. He should be like a swing tackle at best, but he's a starter. At left guard, you got Ali Marpet, one of the better guards, one of the better interior offensive linemen in the league. Definitely top 15 in that range, so we're giving him an 85. It didn't really match up with his Pro Football Focus score, but he started with an 88. And it's tough for me right now to try to figure out how Madden is awarding their offensive line, because usually they pretty much gave them the exact score they had in Pro Football Focus. But it felt actually like this year Pro Football Focus must have changed their grading up or something for offensive linemen, because if you have. I remember 2 years ago, there was a bunch of guys in the 80s and 90s in Pro Football Focus. But you look at the scores from last year. I know Pro Football Focus isn't the be-all, end-all, and a lot of people have criticism of it, and I do too. But at least for offensive linemen, it's been kind of safe for, how judging and grading a person's play. But it seems like last year, either every offensive lineman sucked or they changed their rating. Because, if you were a top 15 O-lineman, you'd still have, a 71 grade. So, obviously, you don't want the whole Madden world being good players still being 72, 73. So I'm not exactly sure how they did the markup, but I feel like 85 is a good starting point here for Marpet. Ryan Jensen, just, an average center, 75, average starter. Not much there at right guard right now. And at right tackle, we have DeMar Dotson, great veteran at offensive tackle. We'll give him an 81. Going to the defensive side. So this is incredibly tough. There is nowhere that has an updated depth chart for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, having Todd Bowles there moving to a 3-4. So I had to guess. Especially it gets ugly at their linebackers. But we will start defensive end in a 3-4 front. I mean, they could do multiple, but in general, if their base is going to be a 3-4, Joe McCoy is going to be a defensive end. And while his stats weren't great last year, 6 sacks, 6 TFLs, this is more so his rating when he switches from a D tackle to D end. I'm not going to nuke him a lot. He is a very talented playmaker, and as long as he's still on this roster, I think 87 is about fair. But when you look at the stats, Carl Nassib had a little bit of a breakout season last year, coming over from the Cleveland Browns. I think he actually is a good fit for this 3-4 front. He had 6.5 sacks, 12 TFLs last year. So, I mean, in comparison, Joe McCoy didn't have nearly as good stats, but, come on. Joe McCoy's really, really good. Nassib kind of having a breakout, needs to show a little bit more consistency, but still nice edge rusher here for the Bucs. They get Anthony Nelson in the draft. I really did like that pick. We're giving him a 71. Going to the other side, we have JPP. Now, there's a lot of concern about is he going to play or not. I think he got in a car accident or something like that, so that's not good. He was definitely their best edge defender last year. I'm giving him an 85. 12.5 sacks, 16 TFLs last season. I don't necessarily know how he's going to fit on a 3-4. In fact, you remember, that's why the Giants traded him, because the Giants were a 4-3, and then he went to a 3-4, and JBP, they determined, was surplus requirement. I don't know how the Bucs are going to handle this, but as it stands right now, he's on the roster, and he's coming off a pretty productive season. Going to the inside, we got Vita Vea. We're going to give him an 80 overall. He'll probably have an 80 quick. I think he had an 80 star at the beginning of Madden 19. Struggled to stay on the field a little bit, had some injuries, but when he was on the field, he looked pretty damn good. He's a great fit for that 3-4. Only played in 8 games, had 3 sacks, 4 TFLs. Plays a full 16. He's definitely going to be, I think one of the best nose tackles in the league. Bo Allen. Shout out Bo Allen, Philadelphia Eagles legend. Not really, but, he was a big part of our Super Bowl run, underrated. Great on run stuffing downs. Going to the linebacking core. This is where it's ugly. I mean, all right, we got Kendall Beckwith a 74. We got Noah Spence 72. I'm not even gonna try to break down who's gonna play where. I honestly couldn't tell you. Middle linebacker, we got Levante David. I gave him a 92 last season. 120 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 13 TFLs. Most depth charts right now have as an outside linebacker. I mean, how can you be 230 pounds and play outside linebacker in a 3-4? It doesn't make sense. But the idea, in my head, is you're going to have Levante David and Devin White in the middle of that defense. That's scary. Devin White is a freak, one of the best picks, one of my favorite players in the draft. Yeah, he's going to maybe not look as good if you constantly try to have him drop back in coverage, but they maximize his strengths. He has got to be probably on the top 3 shortlist to be up for Defensive Rookie of the Year next season. Just a bunch of other linebackers here, man. Shaq Barrett coming from the Broncos. I mean, yeah, he's a scheme fit, 250 pounds. That's usually fringe entryway into being a 3-4 outside linebacker. He's always one of those guys that's been overrated, I think, in Madden. I think 76 is a good starting point. He's always, he's been trade bait on the Denver Broncos for the last 3 seasons in franchise mode. But when you look at his production, it's he's an average. He's an average outside linebacker, but now he's not in the crowded linebacking core of the Denver Broncos. Maybe he can have a breakout year with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Going into the secondary, we got Vernon Hargreaves. We're giving him a 77. Maybe a little bit of hint of Florida Gator bias, but he only played in one game last year. I still think there's some potential. I wouldn't give up on him if you're a Bucks fan. He's had some ups and downs throughout his career there, but I think 77 is a good starting point. Beyond that, you got a lot of guys. I'm not gonna lie, this Ryan Smith guy had a huge game against the Eagles last season. I was actually kind of impressed. But you have some, a lot of draft picks, a lot of high picks. You got Carlton Davis, you got Sean Bunting, MJ Stewart, Jamel Dean. All those players have been, day 2 selections, so they're gonna hope that, hey, can they catch on? Can they, I feel like MJ Stewart has more safety. Maybe start moving him back to safety. Bunting also during his scouting, you look at all the scouting reports during the draft process. He was another guy that was like almost a true DB. Can play corner, can play safety. But yeah, you're definitely hoping that one of these young guys can finally kind of stick on and have a little bit of a breakout year for the Tampa Bay Bucks. There's a dev traits, though. There should be some nice dev traits. You probably will get at least 1 or 2 quicks. I'd probably say at least 2 quicks between Dean, Stewart, Bunting, and Davis to try and develop them into a starter. Going to free safety, we have Justin Evans. I gave him a 76 overall. Just, all right year last season. You got Jordan Whitehead, who I actually really liked coming out of Pitt. He had a nice productive year as well. So a little bit of a battle there for the free safety gig. At strong safety, I think that it could be very well Mike Edwards, who was a early day 3 selection out of Kentucky that could emerge as a starter unless they want to maybe move Justin Evans to strong and have Jordan Whitehead at free. But Mike Edwards is a nice pick out of Kentucky. This guy is a very well-rounded safety. Could be interesting. If Isaiah Johnson, from a box score stat standpoint, he was all right depth. Same with Bryce. I mean, Bryce had some more bigger plays. I think he was with the Green Bay Packers. I just remember Isaiah Johnson, just smoked the wall in that game against the Steelers that had the Chris Conte stiff arm from Vance McDonald. That's all I remember about Isaiah Johnson. So maybe I felt a little bit bad and gave him a 70. Special teams, they got Cairo Santos still on the roster, but I firmly believe Matt Gay will win the kicking job. He was by far the best kicker in college and very legit kicker. And then you have Bradley Pinion, one of the better young punters in the league. We'll give him a 78. So there you go, guys. Those are my ratings predictions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Madden 20. Bucs fans and everyone in between, how do you feel about these ratings? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.